Kia ora, Tanya. Thanks for joining us tonight. You are the only person on the group coaching call today, but I'm sure everyone else will catch up with this session in due course. I have had a message from Jason saying that he will catch up with it later due to other commitments. So, injured, not finished. This video is going to take you through some practical strategies to stay positive and purposeful during recovery. We'll cover off a few things. You're injured. Now what? Why injury feels so mentally hard, separating those fitness losses from what your actual fears might be, shifting from performance goals to recovery goals, looking at what you can still actually control and help move forward, staying connected with both the sport and the community, building confidence during the comeback, and then returning stronger. Lessons that you can learn after being or through the process of being injured. Not that we want to be injured to go through those lessons. So, injuries create a lot of uncertainty about your future, especially if you've got events lined up. They can also significantly alter and impact your routine. So, if you're normally a triathlete, can't run, you might be able to increase your cycling and running, and all of a sudden your normal routine through the week has changed significantly. If you are purely a runner and can't run, then what can you do? And that has a big influence on normality, what your normal week looks like. One of the things we train for is to improve our fitness, whether that fitness is just for life in general or for performance results, either competitive against other people or internally to be better than what we were before. If we can't train, we worry about losing fitness. Now, short-term injuries, we're not going to lose much fitness at all. But where the injury is a lot longer term and you may require some surgery as part of the rebuilding process and the repair process, then that's going to be a lot more long-term. And losing fitness is a significant part of that process. Hand in hand with that, the emotions around losing that fitness. There might be frustration, anger, fear, sadness. All these things are normal. Each person has a different level of them, but we all have them to a certain extent. No one gets injured and goes, I'm going to lose fitness, and I don't care. People might say that as part of putting on a front, but internally they're often concerned about what is going to happen to their sports performance and their fitness. So the first step in that process is accepting the situation you find yourself in openly and honestly and taking positive steps forward to move out of that. Whether that's going and getting a confirmed diagnosis from a sports doctor or getting treatment from a physio. There's a range of different things we can do that can help you understand the situation you are in and help plan and prepare a pathway forward out of that. Involving your coach, whether that's me or someone else, as part of that process will be a great way to move forward from that. As an athlete, myself included, I'm more than just a coach. I am an athlete. I do run, I do swim, I do cycle, I do other things as well. We identify and have our self-worth attached to our ability to do our training. The last month and a bit, I haven't been able to run. I haven't been able to ride my bike. I haven't been able to take the velocity sessions because of a calf injury that is finally getting to the point of clearing up, and hopefully the physio gives me the green light tomorrow morning to get back into running. But that self-worth of not being able to run has had a big influence on me, and past injuries have done the same. And I see it with all the athletes that I coach that struggle with injuries as well. They no longer get to see themselves as an athlete. And I know a number of my athletes will volunteer at events, and that puts them in a different role, different capacity within the sport. It's not competing, and so that is a big difference there. Other people use exercise as a stress management tool, and not being able to conduct that stress management tool in the normal way can have a big effect mentally on people, and mental health can take a little bit of a knock as a result of that. However, regardless of what the injury is, there's usually some way you can still utilize exercise, whether it's a toning down of exercise, a change in exercise discipline in the short term, that can have a positive effect on people. And I know there's some runners out there that are scared that they might magically turn into triathletes overnight because they've seen an injured runner pick up cycling and swimming and start doing triathlons. Doesn't always have to be that way, and it's all up to you as to what you want to do. It might also be that the injury you receive occurs at a poor time frame from a major event, and it might mean that you miss out or dip out from that event. You can't achieve the performance you want, or you can't even participate in the event as you wanted to. Sometimes, if you're looking at an ultra event, you might be able to cut down and do a shorter version, do a half marathon or something at the event, still participate. Other times, you just can't participate at all due to the nature of the injury and the level of severity at that time. But focusing on a few things, we can start moving forward, moving towards the event that you're targeting, or a future event that you're targeting, or potentially the same event next year. Disconnect from your normal training companions is a big consideration as well. And welcome, Jason. Glad you can join us. I know you said you probably weren't going to make it, so I'm glad that you have made it. So the social disconnect, I'll talk about this in relation to the velocity sessions that I lead every Tuesday and Thursday. I really enjoy those sessions, and I've missed them. Now, the last fortnight I've been away, so I haven't been in a position to participate in them, even if I wasn't injured. But prior to that occurring, I still connected with the team. I jump into velocity and effectively monitor their progress and make sure everyone was on the straight and narrow and there was no shenanigans happening in the back of the class. And the social or the Facebook group we have, and I see Tanya's pointing her finger at Jason there because, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Jason's acting all innocent. He just needs to polish his halo a little bit. The A number of groups have got Facebook groups or other ways of connecting between athletes that are geographically dispersed, and Quick Kiwi is no different. And our velocity group is one way of interacting with the athletes you normally train with online, as well as we also have a VIP group, which is all the athletes that are currently coached that utilize Facebook. Not every athlete does. But as part of that group, they can engage and interact and see the results and see the performances of the team members and staying connected. By staying part of those groups while you're injured is a great way to avoid the feeling of isolation whilst injured and unable to train or see the other athletes whilst you're training. The other thing with recovery timelines, it might be that you receive an injury and the typical word from the physio is 6 to 12 weeks. Now that is vastly different from just over a month to 3 months, and that can have the uncertainty around that is very disconcerting. How will I be able to make that race? Will I not? And yeah, that can also lead to a negative impact and mentally challenging as part of that injury process. So, if we take our fitness and separate that from those fears that we've just discussed, there's a few ways we can get around this. And some of the things that people get wrong, most athletes think they're going to lose so much fitness whilst they're injured. The reality is they only lose a fraction of what they think they could potentially lose. Your aerobic fitness will come back extremely quickly. It won't take long to get back into running, back into cycling, back into swimming, whatever the discipline is, kayaking, etc. And that fitness will come back, not quite by magic, with a bit of focus, a bit of discipline, a bit of work, that will return a lot quicker than you envisage. The fact that you may need to start over, and one of our athletes, and Jamie won't mind me using his name, has recently had surgery. He has made an exceptional strive of getting into the gym, just walking on the treadmill, having a safe environment where he's got something to hold on to if he was to stumble. He's not putting his knee through a great range of motion, and then he's graduated from short walks on the treadmill to slightly longer rides on the exercycle where he's getting his knee through a greater range of motion. He is basically starting over, and he's building that up at an appropriate rate under primarily the guidance of his physio with a little bit of oversight from me. But the fear of starting afresh, learning to run again, can often be very disconcerting. But it's a process that, depending on the level of injury, may need to occur. If it needs to occur, let's move through it. Let's set some goals and build from that. An injury, at the end of the day, it's a temporary setback. If you've got years of disciplined training under your belt, or you might be new to the sport and only have months or weeks of disciplined training under your belt, the injury setback will be a minor blip in that process. It might mean that you do take a little bit of a dip, but as soon as we start back, that'll start building up again. Keeping in the back of your mind a little bit of perspective about that process and having a chat with your health professionals, whether a physio or a doctor, and your coach is going to be an important part in maintaining that perspective and developing that plan going forward. The long-term athletic development never goes straight up anyway. It just peaks and slowly climbs up with some steeper and some dips along the way. An injury is just one of the many dips that you will receive as part of that process. So as you train, you might have some goals of cycling so many times a week, or building up to riding for 3 hours, or running for an hour and a half, or whatever those goals might be that might need to go on the back burner for a little bit whilst you get over your injuries. You can reset those goals, focus on what you can control, and focus on the achievement of those recovery goals, the rehabilitation process. It might be your physio sets you 3 sets of a certain exercise to do each day. Schedule them in, make sure they do happen, and celebrate those successes along the way. If I use the example of Jamie or myself, who's had similar surgery in the past, getting that process of working through, the goal might be to get 120 degrees of flexion through the knee. Once we've got to that point, then we can start doing different things, focusing on what needs to occur to achieve that flexion, build on strengthening the quadriceps around the knee joint, working on developing that range of motion, getting that stretch going through the various muscle groups to ensure that can happen, can help focus towards that goal. So having that plan in place of what rehab strategies need to occur, what goals before you move to the next stage, and celebrate those successes as well. And I know Jamie was one that's always keen to have a celebratory success. So we're changing from the training volume that you might have had as your target before to discrete and specific rehabilitation goals. Create short-term goals as well. If you've got something that you can break into weekly or fortnightly challenges, and with the physio that Jamie's working with, every 2 weeks she's got some fantastic goals for him to achieve. I wish my physio, the first time I had my knee surgery, it was the opposite knee the second time, set me similar goals. Conveniently for me, I guess, my second knee surgery on my left knee, I utilised the physio that Jamie is using at the moment, and we had a fantastic success, and I was back running a marathon within 10 weeks of the surgery. So control what you can control. Recovery is key. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, and those recovery habits are all going to guarantee your success. Make sure you follow through and focus on those. Make sure you get to bed early to get that quality sleep, to get that recovery and that repair happening. Without those, you're not going to get the quick fixes and that quick rehab process and back into the sport as fast as possible. So focus on those because you can focus on them. The attitude and approach you take are also going to help plan or direct your pathway through to success. Keep that communication open with both your coach and the medical team, particularly the physio that you're working with closely, and develop a new routine and structure within your week with that rehab and that recovery processes. This will adapt and modify as you work through the process, and then you can start reintegrating your sport and disciplines into that training. It might be that you need to utilize some cross training options that are appropriate as part of that journey. I touched on before about the different ways of connecting with other athletes. If you're part of a squad that trains together regularly, whether online like we do with Velocity, or out in the real world with a track or a bunch ride or something, then make sure you pop along and say good day. If it's a bunch ride that meets at a cafe before or afterwards, pop along, catch up with the crew either before or after the session. Stay connected with those networks. If you're more involved in a team situation, pop along to those training sessions and support those teammates, or stay connected to them in the virtual world and celebrate their successes with them at the events that they are competing in. Those virtual connections using Facebook and other chat groups to stay connected and stay engaged with other athletes on similar pathways prior to your injury. Or it might be some other athletes in your greater squad that are also working through some injury challenges at the moment. YouTube is a great resource for a lot of events. We've recently had the T100 up in Auckland. There's been some major international events in both the Ironman T100 world recently as well. Keep an eye on those events, stay motivated and inspired by them. As you build back into the sport, build your confidence as you go with each little success. Consistency through the week, that is one of the most key structures that will ensure that you get the results in the long term. Doing one big session and then blowing whatever your injured part is apart, whether it's your calf or your knee or hamstring, Achilles, etc., it's not a pathway to success. Doing a little bit each and every day rather than saving yourself and trying to do something massive in the weekend is keeping the consistency is the key. Put your previous fitness on the back burner. That's where you used to be. Focus on what you are now. And it's the same with people that take a break after a big season, enjoy a little break, and then trying to come back into training and expect their performance to be where they were at the peak of the season. It doesn't happen. In fact, in a couple of weeks' time, I've got a park run progress report for an athlete who used to be running sub 19 minutes prior to their Achilles injury. Then coming back into running, they went and did their first park run and opened up with the first kilometre of a 3:34, I think it was off the top of my head. And there's just absolutely no way when they've hardly been running over the last 6 to 8 months that they can sustain that intensity, and their idea of slotting straight back in at 18:45 was blown straight out the window. Respect that recovery timeline. Don't try and rush it. Physios and doctors are very vague on the duration for a number of reasons. Some people might be, if I use that 6 to 12 week example, some people might be down at the 6 weeks, particularly those that are focused, those that are disciplined, those that are consistently applying themselves through that rehab process. Those that are less disciplined or have other things occurring in their life that minimize their ability to maximize that, they might be pushed out to the 12-week end of things. And then there's the people that just don't engage with the process. That 12 weeks could be blown out to 18 to 20. So respect that recovery timeline and just make sure that, or not make sure, be aware and hold in the back of your mind that it might be an 8-week program with goals every 2 weeks. You might not achieve those scheduled goals on the timeline. It might be the first couple of fortnights you blaze through and tick all the boxes successfully straight away, but then the next fortnightly goals take a few extra days or even a week before you get to that point. Everyone's pathway is different. But celebrate those small wins along that way through that rehabilitation. And patience is a performance skill, not just in the rehab and the recovery process, but also particularly for the endurance athletes with pacing and making sure you're not racing off at the start of your event. Returning stronger. What can you learn about yourself from this process? So, injury can improve your long term self awareness. It might be that you become more self aware of your knee joints, your calves, general tightness throughout the body. These can be a good thing because you can self identify them before they become an issue. And if it's tightness, do some more stretching in the areas that are tight. If it's something else, talk to people and maybe get a plan in place before it gets to the point of becoming an injury or before it becomes a major issue. Post injury, a lot of athletes return with better balance and perspective around not just their training, but around their life in general, around their nutrition, around their hydration habits. These sort of things all build together to enhance your performance. And your recovery periods around your training habits can also highlight weaknesses. So if you're one of these people that goes out and has a big run on the Sunday and then finishes with a Sunday session, the overall pattern that you're developing is not necessarily a holistic or healthy response. That big run followed by the alcohol finishing off, the two things don't go together. The alcohol causes further dehydration, etc., etc. Whereas someone who might change their habit from having that long run, making sure they're well hydrated, going through a stretch, rolling out on the foam roller, and then maybe having a more appropriate drink later on in the evening rather than straight into it. Your patience and the resilience can also become strengths that you can take from the injured athlete environment and put into a racing or pacing type perspective. These skill sets can transfer and cross over. Your setbacks, when you learn from them, you can use them to guide and influence other athletes. And Quick Kiwi in the VIP chat often have people referring on or deferring their experiences and what they've gone through previously onto other athletes in a helpful, supportive way. And that is a great tool, great advantage of becoming injured. Not one, though, that we want to try and maximize by getting injured regularly. And also the final comment there that the comeback process can also be a defining part of the journey. I think back to one of my athletes, Diane, who got injured leading up to, I can't remember which Ironman it was, would have been around 2013 maybe. She spent a good portion of her time building up for Ironman New Zealand without being able to run until the final 2 weeks. I think the injury occurred maybe October, November-ish, with the race being in March with only 2 weeks running under her belt. She successfully ran the entire marathon and had a fantastic day out on the race course by the way that she approached the whole thing, not just the rehab, but also preparing for the event and making swimming and cycling more of strength and maintain that aerobic fitness through doing those other disciplines. All right, any questions? Tanya, you were first cab off the rank for many reasons. You were here on time. You were the only one here at the start, and you're also top of my screen tonight.
Wow, what a winner. Um, not so much a question, but just I guess a comment. When I injured my knee, when I tore the meniscus in my knee, and I thought, oh, might be the end of my running. Like you talked about goals, and for me, it was more about thinking about things that I wanted to do, particularly with my moko, with my grandchildren, like going hiking and stuff and bike rides and that sort of thing. I guess that sort of goal that kept me going.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, like I thought to myself, okay, if I've got to give up running, then I've had, however many years, we won't say years of running and triathlon and I've kind of knocked off some big goals in that time. And if this is the end of it, then I really want to do the physio work in order to preserve my knee for those other more family orientated things. So that was kind of a big big motivation for me. And it just so happens that I've been able to get back into running, which is good.
Absolutely. And without having that injury, would you have even considered doing an aqua bike and then qualifying for
Nope.
the New Zealand team? Exactly. It's
No,
created
no, I
uh,
would not have
other
considered doing
opportunities.
an aqua bike. I thought that was for pansies.
I just want to go do the aqua bike at Challenge Wanaka just so I can Google it because there was no
Yeah,
one in my age group this year.
yeah. I reckon we'll all get placings if we do aqua bike next year. Uh,
With the change to the T100 format, I'm
yeah,
definitely locking in the T100 because
yeah,
that'll be my first opportunity to race
yeah.
that distance.
That'd be cool. So yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I guess the other comment I would make is Strava is good and those kinds of platforms, but when you're injured, it can also really mess with your mind because you're seeing what your friends and fellow athletes are doing, and you're kind of got this horrible, oh damn, I'm injured and what a
Uh,
bummer. Yeah, so
Absolutely. It's a double-edged sword.
yeah,
Even when you're not injured, it's a double-edged sword.
yeah, yeah.
When you are injured, though, it's an opportunity for you to engage and celebrate the successes of your friends and fellow
Mm,
athletes. It is hard to put your limited involvement with what you're posting on Strava when you're injured to the side and just genuinely share the successes
mm,
of friends and colleagues.
yeah.
Jason,
No, nothing from me. I think the just to expand a wee bit on that whole Strava thing as well. I think with current injury, it's been an interesting one because you look at all your PBs and what you were doing, and that can cause the frustration as well. But um, I think you're right. You've sort of got to put it in a bit of perspective in terms of current versus previous performance, and just I guess manage that as well. So it's a good insight to have touched on.
yeah. All right. With no targeted questions on that, any questions in general about any topic, about your training, about exercise in general? We've got a fantastic topic lined up for next weekend. Tanya's put forward about strength training for endurance athletes, and I'm planning a series now as a result of a conversation with Tanya. But yeah, first part of that series will be next weekend.
No general questions from me.
Anything from you, Jason? All in that case, I shall wrap up the call and look forward to catching up with you all next weekend.
Mm, thank you. Ka kite.
Ka kite anō.